Good morning, gamers. I'm Gregory, and this is 1 in 20 D&D. Welcome to another DnDaily. Today's DnDaily number 70, which feels pretty massive. I'm pretty stoked. I feel like I'm getting close to 100. I mean, 70 means I've done more than 2 months worth of these, and it's exciting. It's super fun to do these. I really enjoy getting my mind thinking about and expressing all these ideas that I have about gaming and RPGs. So thank you for allowing me to share some of my madness. Or at least some of my thoughts. Hopefully they're not too crazy, too out of left field. Although I did go off the chain the other day. Hopefully you saw that, D and Daily. Hey, look, I got to do the update, right? So, Vox Machina, Critical Role, the animated series for Vox Machina, their Kickstarter. Currently, they have I should say, 8.25 million pledged with like 61,000 ish. I think it's 61,000. If it's not, it's over. It's close to whatever backers. I mean, I am completely convinced they are going to hit 8.8 million, which is their final stretch goal, which I just absolutely believe it's going to happen because who doesn't want Ashley Johnson to do a one shot? I mean, we've been waiting. The whole rest of the cast has done a one shot. They've DM'd a one shot. We're waiting for Ashley to do hers. It's going to be amazing. Hey, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but another cool thing that the folks at Critical Role do is this series called Between the Sheets. So Brian W. Foster, he does the Talks Machinas on Tuesday nights, which is a great sort of recap. It's a la Talking Dead, where it's the cast and some of the guests and whatnot sit and they have this chat with Brian W. Foster and Danny Carr, and they have, well, Danny Carr's on the sidelines, but she's always there adding her bubbly enthusiasm to the mix. And so Brian W. Foster, he's an amazing interviewer. And in the first season of Between the Sheets, if you're not already aware of this, he interviewed the cast of Critical Role. The cast is such a silly word to use. The players, let's say, and Matt Mercer, the DM. He interviewed everyone from Critical Role, with the exception of Ashley, who I believe he sort of teased that maybe possibly the last Between the Sheets of this season 2 is going to be Ashley, which would be super cool. But guys, he did an interview with Logic. I just watched another one. It's amazing. The interviews he's doing. Ashley Birch is on there, and there's just, it's really Will Friedle is the one I just watched. Will Friedle's a really interesting and amazing guy. I mean, he did all kinds of stuff that I wasn't even aware of. And from the first series of Critical Role, first campaign, he played Cash, the fantastic, interesting cleric Cash, or Kashaw, and just a great character. Came on one or two occasions as a guest, and he was there for the Battle of Vecna and everything, or at least the lead up to the Battle of Vecna or what have you. And there's all these great people that Brian is interviewing, and it's this really candid, very intimate interview, and you get some insight into who these people actually are. And it's not, again, I think as this show goes forward, they're going to interview more and more people. They've interviewed artists, and like I said, Logic. I mean, Logic plays D&D. If you didn't know that, yeah, he's that cool. He's an amazing rap artist, and he plays D&D. How cool is that? And became friends with some of the crew, some of the cast, I guess, Brian and whatnot. And so anyway, I just watched the one, like I said, and if you haven't seen it, it's just another thing. It's kind of RPG adjacent. So if you're into Critical Role like I am, and you're into D&D and RPG and all this stuff like I am, it's just one of these things that's fascinating. It's fascinating to get some insight into like the people that are making this awesome content and other amazing content as well. Like, especially with Critical Role, because a lot of the, like, Travis Willingham and Laura Bailey and all these, Matthew Mercer, these people are some of the biggest names in voiceover. They've done video games, they've done cartoons, Sam Riegel as well, Liam O'Brien. I mean, some of the, like, these iconic voices in animation and in cartoons and in video games are done by these people. So it's kind of neat to get a little bit more about who they are, what they're about, what their interests are, how they got in, how they got into the field in the first place, how they ended up playing Critical Role, and all this other cool stuff. So, hey, another cool thing I watched yesterday, was listening to and watching yesterday, was the episode 3, I think, from Relics and Rarities. I'm really digging Relics and Rarities. It's a very different style game, and I absolutely love it. Deborah Ann Wall, fantastic DM, great storyteller, the way she's putting things together. And she is Charlie Cox, Daredevil from the Netflix series, was in the game this week. They only did part 1, so it's the first half of their game, I guess. And fun, interesting. He's never played D&D before, so it's so cool to see people like him and others getting introduced to this amazing game and hobby that we all love. Oh, speaking of hobbies, Will Friedle, he's doing Painters Guild. I don't know if you've heard of Painters Guild. So one of the things I loved, if you follow my Instagram, which if you haven't, why not? I mean, hello, the information is like down here somewhere. Oh, no, wait. It should be right down here. What happened? There, it's supposed to be right there. I have to fix that. So, at Gregory Festo works for Twitter, but there's also supposed to be an Instagram. Anyway, I'm being silly because that's just who I am. Hey, anyway, Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. I post occasionally some of my miniatures. I'm going to do more of those going forward because I love painting. It's been a while, but I love painting. I have a couple that I like to use and so forth, and some of my favorites that I've done through the years. And by the way, Will Friedle does this really cool Painters Guild where he gives you tips and tricks and talks with other people about painting minis. That's super cool. Not everyone. I've talked about it a little bit when I talked about battle mats versus theater of the mind. Like, minis are a whole nother area. I think I'm going to take another one of these DnDailies maybe and really focus in on minis and mini painting and the whole, I don't know, the whole hobby around minis, because it's its own thing. There are other games that is how you play the game. You cannot play the game without them. For instance, like Warhammer 40K, Warhammer 40,000, or Warhammer Fantasy Battle. And there are other games like that are they're tabletop games. They're simulation games. In fact, here's a little tidbit. So going back to 1970s, when Gary Gygax and the others created Chainmail, which then became Dungeons and Dragons, the reason they did this is because they were already sort of kind of into reenactment games. So even back then, modelers who were doing like model trains and stuff like that were starting to do these simulated combats. Usually, a lot of times they were like reenactments of big battles that happened, where they were creating these little miniatures of soldiers, putting them on a table with hills and trees and rivers and this kind of thing, and then having them go at it. So they were creating these miniature landscapes, and that's what developed into tabletop gaming, sort of the way we know it today, as these big battles where you have these intricate, beautiful landscapes and sets essentially designed for the tabletop. Or even if you just use a simple battle mat like a dry erase board or what have you and sketch it out. Or like back in the day when we were little kids, when we were like in our teens and even in our pre-teens and all that, playing D&D, we didn't have that kind of stuff, and we certainly didn't have the money to go buy that. None of us were like hobbyists or craftsmen at that age, so we're like railroad enthusiasts, like railroad set enthusiasts. They tend to be, but we just use like Legos or anything, whatever was available, and we put it on the table, and we're like, yeah, okay, that's a building, and hey, here, this is a tree, and we just used our imagination. So even though we were representationally putting the images, putting the items rather on the table, and that was representing our characters in our field of battle, let's call it, or the room we were in or whatever. We were still using our imagination. I mean, that's what role-playing game ultimately, I think, is all about. It's all about tapping into our pleasure and joy and fun and creating exciting games using our imagination. And sometimes it's tapping into the fear and excitement and adrenaline, and because if you're doing like a vampire or a horror setting, like Curse of Strahd or something, and even to some degree, you just in one campaign you might have one section where things get creepy and scary and intense. You just never know. I mean, but that's what's fun about using our imagination. That's what's fun about getting together with a great DM who creates a space that everybody can have fun and explore and play in. I mean, that's why we're calling it a game in the first place, right? A role-playing game. But anyway, so that's enough for today, folks. I appreciate you stopping in to check this quick little video out, and I have more to come. I am going to, either tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow, I'll release the game video that I have sort of in the can. I have to make like 1 or 2 last minute tweaks to really get it exactly how I want it. That is the session 3 for our Battletech RPG series that I'm doing, and man, it was fun. This was all the preliminary preview of our setup, our backstory, like the setup for our campaign. So it was really cool, really interesting. We did some tactical discussion and that kind of thing. And then the next video I'm going to release, part 2 of session 3, is going to be the combat. So woohoo, fun stuff. And stay tuned for all of that. I got another big announcement. I'm not doing it today. But tomorrow I've got something big that I've done that I'm ready to release, and I'm so nervous. I've mentioned it before, but I'm not gonna say anymore. But tomorrow, tune in tomorrow. Thank you for checking this out. I'm Gregory. This is 1 in 20 D&D. You've been watching. Please, I hope to see you at a table someday. Until then, keep rolling 20s, and remember, it's your game. Play your way.